All right, you guys, I'm pretty confident that I can sit down here and make a decent little diagram for you on the fly. A lot of the things that I've been learning, just so many things that if I knew these things 10 years ago, I'm not complaining because my ex brought me to the Lord after I turned my back on him, after he saved me and I knew he was real. I turned my back on him and went right back to all my sins. And she was crafted just right to bring me back. And she also made a father out of me. 2 wonderful kids. So this is not a regret story. This isn't I wish I could change it. I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't change a thing except knowing what I'm about to show you. So I have been one half. I'm this square. And she's this square. Of an anxious-avoidant toxic union, okay? Highly toxic, cyclical, highly toxic. Lots of love, no question about it. Lots of genuine, true love. But patterns, repeats of patterns on both of us from our childhoods, from very traumatic childhoods. I'm going to not reveal any more than necessary about her. And this is not about putting her down at all. I love her very deeply. We can't be together, but I love her very deeply. And I want her healed and restored because I love my kids even more deeply. And she's always going to be mom of the century to me. Now, I'm not saying she's perfect at being a mom either. She lets them kids steamroll the crap out of her. And now with me gone, there's nothing that restrains those little animals from steamrolling her even worse. So what she lacks is boundaries with the children. What I lacked was boundaries with her. Now what makes me anxious, so we both have trauma. And now she has trauma, and I mean 1, 2, 3, 4. She has a whole pile of it. But for the sake of not disclosing her business, I'm not going to talk about this out of respect for her. I hope that she will disclose it because that's what will heal her. I truly pray that she takes this time, that she stays single, stays walking close with the Lord like she's doing. I'm very proud of her progress. And I hope she will identify these feelings because the things that I'm going to talk about, I couldn't identify them. Primarily, it was mom abandonment. So on the one hand, mom abandonment. And on the other hand, now my father was a more consistent parent. But my father, now my mom's abandonment was also erratic. So you didn't know. Some days you had good moms, some days you had bad. There was times where I did something where I expected a beating I didn't get, where she was completely tender. And there was times where I didn't do anything and the belt came flying out and whacked me upside the head with it. So you didn't know. The primary abandonment was when I was 5. It was the words. It's not the beatings. It's not the beatings. They don't hurt no more. My dad was just here for 2 weeks and he's like, you remember that time I was punching you on the floor? I mean, it was like, well, which time? It don't hurt no more. See, he was consistent. I know that he loves me. Now we had our beefs for a long time, but we just got that all out in the open just by talking about it. My mother has never talked about her childhood or her role as a mother. Like, it's an avoidance. She is an avoidant. That's what my spouse is. So the old saying, you marry somebody who's like mom. It's not that you marry somebody like mom. It's that you marry somebody like the primary caretaker that you did not get your needs met by. So if it was my dad who left and mom stayed, if mom was meeting my needs and dad was absent, and I had obsessions and fantasies about having a father, then I would marry a woman that more emulated my father. But that's not the case. My father, even though he had depression, well, both my parents, low self-esteem, low self-worth. Low self-worth, negative self-talk, but he had a lot of anger. I have a lot of anger. I have a hard time controlling my temper. I have a much easier time controlling my temper in the absence of my spouse. My father, kind of the same thing. My father's worst loss of temper, like times where literally he just loses control of himself and he's punching me with a fist as a 7-year-old, that was because of my mother. It required my mother to as the detonator to bring that out of my father. The two of them together, when you had them separated, they were both pretty good. They were friendly and they were both pretty good. Individually. But when you put the two together, their relationship, the chaos and the disaster, the toxicity of their unique pairing was a dangerous place for me and my brother to live. No question about it. And I've not really talked much about my brother. He and I don't have much of a relationship. I would say he probably kind of hates me, and he has a good reason to. When I was 5, Mom left, and Dad worked second shift. So who do you think raised baby brother? I was a 5-year-old with a kid. And that kid didn't listen to me any more than anybody else. And what I saw was when someone doesn't listen, you get mad, you spank them, you yell at them, you punish. So from 5 years old, I'm trying to raise a 3-year-old, 2.5, 3-year-old. When he got into kindergarten, getting him up, my mother left when I was in kindergarten. So me getting myself up, ready, dressed, brushed, breakfast, comb your hair, put your clean clothes on, get on the bus and go to school. That was all me. My father was asleep. He worked nights. So he was asleep. I did that alone. When my brother had to go to school, I had to be responsible for me and him. And all he had to do was move slow, cause us to miss the bus to get me a beating. Dad was not going to beat my little brother. My brother developed a defense mechanism of pissing his pants. If you cracked him, he peed all over himself. So my father had all of this restraint with my brother. I got my brother's whoopings and mine. And me and Dad talked about that the other day, saying, a lot of who I was a person who knew I was going to get beat. Or, I was going to catch, if someone was going to get cracked, it was going to be me because I wasn't going to piss. So I could get my beating in his. And until my dad's anger had worn out. If my brother really, really, really needed it, he would send him to the bathroom. My brother would be in that bathroom with performance anxiety for 45 minutes. That kid could not pee. He still can't piss on command for a urinalysis. Just from childhood trauma. Another factor with my brother is that he was a fat kid, and he had a lot of bullies, and he has no idea, probably to this day, how many of his bullies I took care of behind the scenes. I was constantly having to go find some kid 2 grades younger than me that I didn't know and grab him by the hair and have a talk with him and say, you ain't gonna hit my brother. I've had a couple there was one time it was actually pretty dangerous for me. Somebody sucker punched him, and I went to a house with full of much bigger kids, just me, and dealt with that. But I'm not asking for thanks. I probably should have let him get beat up. It probably would have been better for him in the long run. Probably would have been better for our relationship, but I didn't. I just looked at it as I was assigned. Your assignment is to take care of your little brother because we're not available to do it. My mom, my father were not available to do it. So I took care of my brother. He didn't listen to me, and that made me furious. So from 5 years old, I've been trying to get a kid to do what I say, and they won't. And I've been frustrated with that. I don't want to say all my life, because when I grew up and went off in the military, from that time until I had kids, that was close to about 10 years where I didn't have any children to be upset that they're not listening. And of course, you're not upset at a baby. I did start spanking my kids too soon, but that's another video for another day. So all of the same things that were in my father's programming were in mine. All the same stresses and all of the same characteristics in my mother were in me, and then add in characteristics from her mother that were even more just icing on the cake of difficulty for me, because some of them were foreign. A huge amount of manipulation and gaslighting, and then accusing me of being the manipulative gaslighter. Now, there's a possibility that I was, because to cope with my life, I tried all the different flavors. I didn't, from 7th grade to 11th grade, I was a druggie. And I didn't like the friends that it brought into my life. You couldn't walk out of your bedroom without locking stuff up, because the drug life, the friends that come from a drug life, they're thieves. So you walk out of your bedroom, they're opening your desk drawers, they're taking stuff from you. I did not like that. There was times where I came home and like a friend that's hiding out was in like under the covers in my bed, like let themselves in and was hiding out in my house, in my bedroom at my mother's house. Who knows what they took? That type of friendship, I had enough of those. That was a lot of the reason why I went in the military, to get away from that crowd. So I was done with drugs by 11th grade. And as far as drinking, I've never really had the stomach to handle drinking enough to drown my sorrows. And I hate puking. I absolutely despise vomiting, and I'm not a very good drinker. So don't get me wrong, there was years of partying, and I would overdo the drinking for the sake of having a good time at partying. But in terms of medicating my own inner emptiness and turmoil and self-loathing and all these things, alcohol was never going to be my jam, because it just doesn't make me feel good. So porn and sex, obviously sex with a woman when you can get one, and I'm pretty good at getting women. So that's the other end of it. A lot of the chaos of my life was from having women that really like sex. Well, women who really, really like sex usually have quite a bit of broken background themselves. And they're usually medicating their own internal self-conflict and turmoil by having sex with you. So two broken people put together to just screw a bunch. This is a recipe for disaster. The devil loves it. The devil loves it. It's self-destruction. And it causes so many more conflicts and so much more chaos and so much more hurt and wounding and trauma. And then, when that one ends, you tell yourself, well, I've got needs. So you go on looking for the next replacement, and sometimes you get even a lesser quality replacement, or just you go from trauma to trauma. And that's what I did. And she did too. You go from trauma to trauma. So for men, and we've been convinced by the devil that we have needs. We think sex is a need, but it's really a want. It's a joyful thing from God, but he only allows it to be a blessing to you under a very small context, and that's a biblical one, where a man leaves his mother and father and cleaves unto one wife, he marries her, then he has sex with her. Not he has sex, then he marries her. So my first marriage made me think, marriage is terrible, I'm never doing it again, I just want the sex. And which means every relationship I had was a broken, destructive, traumatic relationship. So sex is a want. It's not a need. That's the first thing toward healing. For if you're with me right here, where suddenly you just said, I can't even be involved with women, they're too expensive, they're too full of problems, they say one thing when they mean another, and they attack and accuse, like I solve their problems, I work on their cars, I give them money, I show up and I fix their lawnmower, I fix the leak on the roof, I fix the bathroom, I do the drywall. I just want that sex. But they want to accuse me of, you're this, you're that, you're the other thing. It's like, screw you, I'm doing all this stuff for you. There's all this resentment. All the things that men do, hoping to get, I'm not going to say a vulgar word, but you know what payments. It starts with a P, kitty payments. Men do a lot of work for damsels in distress, and they expect a transactional, because that's what the world thinks of marriage. It's transactional. I'll do this for you, you'll do that for me. When you stop meeting your end of the bargain, we'll dissolve the contract. So that's not God's vision for marriage. God's vision for marriage is a covenant. But what happens with this anxious-avoidant dynamic is that this guy here wants an extreme closeness. This one here can't handle and needs a safe distance. In the beginning, when you first get together and the whole relationship is about sex, well, you know what? Let's make this a heart right here. I don't know why my brain and my hand didn't listen to my brain. So sex right here, in the beginning, you have this really extreme closeness, and it's around sex. So this partner feels like this partner really gets me and gives me this feeling that I need, this really intense, high intensity, highly emotional, highly close, like we're naked and, bonded together in bed all the time. This is how I want to feel all the time. And as soon as we've got our clothes on, it's just temporary till we can get back in bed and do that again. And I just want to live here. In the very beginning, there's this love bombing. Because this partner, this avoidant partner, now you've got fearful. There's a spectrum. You've got fearful and fearful and anxious? Fearful and dismissive. A dismissive avoidant is one who dismisses. They were dismissed. So this child their needs were probably physically met by their caretakers, one or both, or multiple, but their emotional needs were dismissed. And that's what happened to her. So when you put these two together, the anxious avoidant, this person, once conflict happens, so conflict, every relationship has conflict. In the beginning, this partner is carefree. They're able, through compartmentalization, through boxing themselves off into pieces, where I can share my body, but I can't share my heart. But in the beginning, they're sharing their body, so this partner is super praising and uplifting and positive and encouraging, and oh, I love everything about you, and this is so new, this is so amazing. All the compliments. That's what gets to this one's heart, is the words of affirmation, okay? Quality time and words of affirmation. Oh, I'm addicted to you. I can't stand not being with you. I can't stand not thinking about you. We just left and I'm texting you. I can't even look at the road because I've got to text you. I'm so crazy in love with you, right? That's what lights this one up. This one is lit up by physical closeness. And when that physical closeness goes away, this person will shrivel up. They will feel unloved. They will feel rejected. This one will feel rejected when the words of affirmation go away. But more than anything, this one cannot handle criticism, shame, guilt, and, like put downs. This person cannot handle that. This one has a huge capacity to endure all of that stuff, but cannot handle abandonment. And abandonment and rejection are like really kind of two sides of the same coin, basically being thrown away. This one can handle abandonment tremendously well because it gives them the distance that makes them feel safe. See, closeness makes this person feel very unsafe because they're having to be close with their emotions and close with someone else's emotions and be vulnerable to receive all the things that they cannot endure. Criticism, shame, put downs, guilt, embarrassment. Anything embarrassing is tremendously devastating to their psyche, to their self. And they will do just about anything. They will do and say just about anything to put barbed wire around this, to be able to block it. They will tell themselves, they will live lies. They will conceal who they are. They will live in the shadows. They will be chameleons. They will pretend to be something else. They will sabotage. They will burn bridges. They will do just about anything once the conflict in the relationship pops up, which doesn't take that long. The first conflict basically starts to put the love bomb stage, the honeymoon initial love bomb stage, starts to die, really, with the first conflict. And then from the first conflict, the relationship will turn towards a defensive relationship with incredible, never-ending accusations and reasons and logic and spoken words about why things are going the way they are and how you're not meeting my need. It's all a smokescreen. It's all a diversion. This person does not know that they are not comfortable unless there's, this many feet of distance. That's what they want. They don't want this many feet. So when this partner starts to break up, that's the only time this partner will chase. The only time. The rest of this relationship feels this way. Continually. There's no or very little reciprocity. This partner is doing things for that partner in all 5 love languages, and this partner's not responding. And they can't say, I don't trust you, therefore I can't let you get this close to me ever again. This partner's saying, I can't live if I don't have you this close. If I don't have you this close, I can't live. And this one, breadcrumbs. They can't tolerate this much closeness. After the conflict begins and they've experienced embarrassment, criticism, shame, guilt, put downs, lie, any kind of lying, even though this person's usually a pretty severe liar, they expect much better from their partner. They'll lie to them, but they will not accept a lie. They will crucify you over one little white lie, but then they will live a lie for years. And when it finally gets exposed, they will own it very little. This person's decisions can completely traumatize this person. And when it comes out, they will have a very small quantity of remorse, like insufficient remorse. They do have empathy and remorse, but it's not proportional to the size of wound that they've given to the other person. It feels like a 90-10 in my experience. From this side, my experience, it feels like a 90-10. Because, and how you know it feels like a 90-10 is when you have given this person 15 years of your life, and along comes another guy who gives them 1 week. He says a few nice things. He gives them a gift or two, and he is the new hero. Oh, lovey-dovey, he's the new hero. He's such a good guy, even though his backstory is absolute shit. Dangerous, bad news, like track record of bad. She will gravitate toward this person because he says the things that she longs to hear, and even though you do too, she puts up a barrier wall. Well, it doesn't have to be a she, it's the avoidant. So this could be a wife that's the anxious, and this could be a husband that's the avoidant, and he stays busy. He keeps his schedule full. He allots time for everybody else. He's short with time, with closeness, just continually distant. And he's probably a cheater, and he probably falls in love with trash hoes, and meanwhile claims that this woman who's really, really worked hard to love him and forgive and get over the hurt and pain caused by him, she's probably done everything under the sun for this guy, and he's made her feel guilty about it, shamed her for it, just rejected her. But then some hoe comes along, and he's gaga for her. In my case, I did a role reversal there. But this video is getting long enough, 22 minutes. I can't really upload much longer. So I'm going to cut this off right here. But I will say that there is crossover. There's no question that I've done my share of gaslighting unintentionally to her. This is my spouse in this case. But the gaslighting is severe. My experience here is the gaslighting is severe. That it's a requirement for this person to live a delusion to just allow this one to stay in their life. Once the wounding has occurred, once this stuff, the barbed wire stuff, once this person has done the barbed wire wounding to this person, if they can't get away from each other, if there's kids, the kids are the glue of marriage. If there's kids and she reveres this man here as a good father, as I regard her as a wonderful mother, and she regards me as a wonderful father. Now, and by the way, I'm no longer a porn addict either. So you would think that would solve the problem. The porn addiction wasn't the problem. It was these things. She's over this. That doesn't bother her at all. It doesn't bother her at all. It did, but it being gone doesn't erase any of this. This is a person who hangs on to grudges, who hangs on to memories, who lives in their head, and who also really, really has obsessions, like fantasy obsession relationships. So this person obsesses about this person, but the obsession in their head, this little daydream in their head, where it's all lovey-dovey, the obsession in their head is better than the reality of the relationship. Because in the obsessive relationship, in the fantasy relationship, there's no conflict. In the real life relationship, there's going to be conflict. And this person does not have conflict resolution skills. So they require this person to do all of the conflict resolution, which usually means taking the blame for the entire relationship. And this person blame shifting and dumping all of the blame over onto this one. And this one's got that low self-esteem and that fear of abandonment. The concept here is is I can't quit you. Okay? I just can't do it. I can't quit you, honey. This person internalizes, he can't leave me, so I can abuse him any way necessary to get the distance that I want. He'll never leave. And basically, this person abuses this one so much that they eventually contemplate suicide. They eventually say, either I have to quit her or I have to die. One or the other. And that's the point where I got to. That's the point where I got to. So I had to say, guess what? Newsflash. I can quit you. I will quit you. Goodbye. And that's when you start getting this. And it's sad that that's how it has to go, because a lot of this relationship could be healed if each one of them became aware of their role in it. Now, it's easier for me to see her role than it is to see mine, because, psychologically, I have a resistance to seeing myself in a negative light. Even though low self-esteem and all that stuff, I still don't want to be taking the blame for all kinds of things. I'll still defend myself, even though subconsciously I know the things that I'm defending are probably true about me, not in every context, but I don't want that to be my identity. And, I'm still a flawed human being. I'm still working on it. But the reality is, the faster that I can own my end of it, the faster I can be freed of the things that have been prisons for me, like my hoarding. My hoarding has been a prison for me. See, this woman wanted a nice house and a nice life, and it looked like this guy could provide it. This guy wanted a nice relationship where a woman was going to take interest in him forever. So she couldn't, when she stopped being able to provide which came first, the chicken or the egg? Did I say the first insult or did she? Who knows? I know that the mayonnaise fight was the first time she caught me in a little white lie, but it wasn't the first time she lied to me. So, but she'll say, you started it. That's her favorite line. You started it. Well, I didn't tell the first lie, but who cares? Chicken or the egg? It doesn't matter which came first if they're both here today. You have to deal with both. You have to deal with the chicken and the egg. Now, the faster we can realize what we are, the faster we can separate and start fixing what we are. And I don't think that I'm not going to say it's not possible, but I think while these two people are together, both of them repairing themselves at a high rate of speed, be a real challenge. Getting over this kind of relationship really generally requires no contact. And when you've got children together and you're having a co-parent, it is exceptionally hard for this fellow here, this person, to get over this one, because they're having to have constant contact, and that renews their obsession with the continuation of this relationship. Because in their mind, the big fear is the abandonment from mom, from dad, from whoever, from that caretaker 30, 40 years ago that said, you're not good enough for me, and shame on you that you weren't better. That's what the child internalizes. A 5-year-old, when you say, Mom, why'd you leave? Oh, I left because of you. It could have been I left because it would be better for you. But the child only hears, you weren't good enough. You failed. Remember, this is kindergarten. This is the first time you start taking tests and getting grades and finding out what you're worth based on what the school tells you you're worth, which is probably a terrible system. Never really thought about that. Anyway, that's enough for now. Oh, no, wait. This woman wanted a nice house. This guy wanted a nice woman that was going to be attentive to him. When each of them starts getting their needs not met, when she stops being attentive to him and making him feel less than, and this is me, okay, this is my case. When I start hoarding junk and doing projects and doing all these things to cope with the feeling, with the agony, with the pain of that marriage. So when I turn my own life into a junkyard, even though I hate it, it's embarrassing to her. She hates it too. When she's saying, I want this and that project to get done, and this guy's saying, I want a partnership so that we can do this together. I want to do that project together. But she says, no, nope. Like she doesn't say no. She doesn't say no. She makes a bunch of bullshit stories to maintain this distance. Because if we do a project together, that means we're like this. That means we're close. She can't handle that close. So she's going to say, well, I'm busy with this, I'm busy with that, I'm busy with this, I'm busy with that, but you better do this thing for me. I'll spend all the money that we set aside to do the project with. That way I don't ever have to say, great job, let's now be close to each other. See, it's a subconscious defense. It's a continual self-sabotaging. This person wants to stay a victim, wants to stay in the relationship for its benefits, but does not want this distance to be closed and healed. So they continually sabotage so that it stays this far apart for a very long period of time, because that's what they saw mom and dad do here, and that's what they're going to do with their life. Even though they hate it. They hate how it feels, but they don't understand it, and they perpetuate it. And this one, when he doesn't feel he's getting his needs met, he doesn't have the drive. He doesn't have the energy to do the thing that she's demanding. Because for the last 10, 15, 20, 30 years, he's been doing the things that she demanded and not getting the outcome. The consequence is a male midlife crisis. Do you know how many men have been spending their 20s and 30s doing what this woman that they're with says will make them happy, and they never become happy? And then the man suddenly realizes, I've done everything I was supposed to and I didn't get the outcome. That's the crisis. He says, fine, I'm doing the exact opposite. I'm going to go get me a Harley. Screw you. You do what you want with your girlfriends. I'm going to go buy a Corvette. I'm going to get a bass boat. That's what a midlife crisis is. Or maybe I'm going to divorce you and then I'm going to get a bass boat, because trying to please you has made me miserable and I've got nothing for it. I've wanted the garage that I'm still working for since I was 18. I'm 44. Women have been a lot of why I don't have a garage. Midlife crisis? I don't know. Subscribe and find out.